good morning or good afternoon. It is to Aimee. Glad to join you
Yeah,
this in February. When February, can you believe? Okay, we're getting into
I know, but you're
2021.
like in the future. You're a day ahead of me, and I'm fascinated by that. So I'm evening.
Yeah,
The
I
sun will
have.
be setting while we're talking, and you are tomorrow.
I'm here to warn you about the future, but I can't tell you what it is because it will alter your future.
Yeah,
But
don't tell me.
you just
That'd be
need
the
to
worst
know
thing you could do.
it's going to
I
be
can only handle
very
one day at a time.
it's going to be very very bad, and you don't want to see the next haircut that Ted Cruz has.
Oh
If you
no.
thought it couldn't get worse.
Next flight that he takes, right?
He goes, I won't tell you what haircut he gets, but I'll just give you the words Daft Punk.
Okay. It does sound scary. I
Does
think
sound scary.
his teenagers or children must have had some influence there.
Perhaps. But you've had a bit of good news this week, or you've reached a bit of not a milestone, you've reached a target. You have submitted a book to a manuscript, which is the closest that men will ever come to experiencing childbirth, is handing over
Yes, you're right.
a manuscript to a publisher. Is our version of intellectual childbirth, birthing an idea, giving it now to the midwife, who is
To the midwife, which is unlike childbirth, is terrifying because it's your baby, and it's all you've thought, it's all I've thought about, it's all I've been doing, and now it's under the scrutiny of the midwife. And I have a really good editor, so that gives me a lot of confidence that it's under that scrutiny, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, you spend so much time with that manuscript, and now it's like I don't know what to do with my life. It's terrifying to push that send button, and there it goes. And
yeah.
it's terrible. I'll confess, I'm sitting under the sermon on Sunday because I did it on Friday, and sitting under the sermon on Sunday, and some kind of connection to what was being preached connected to something in my manuscript. I'm thinking, oh, it'd be really good to add this here, but I can't.
That ship has
It's
sailed.
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's now over the horizon.
there she
Now,
blows.
remind us the name of the book, Aimee.
So the book is called The Sexual Reformation: Restoring the Dignity and Personhood of Man and Woman. So I'm really excited about it because what it does is I think we've had so much talk about what men and women can do and what they can't do or should do and shouldn't do, on both sides. And that's how we've kind of been defining masculinity and femininity. And what I really want to do is get to the meaningfulness behind our sexes. So my book explores the theological meaning behind our sexuality. And then I'm aiming to help Christians understand our sexuality as gift, which a lot of that part of it comes from Pope John Paul II, actually. But then I'm going off on my own too, and well, not my own. I'm definitely drawing from many others on the typology of man and woman that we see in the Song of Songs. And so this whole eschatological picture that we have enfleshed in man and woman, and it really is enfleshing the whole meta narrative of Scripture. It's not just this random, erotic, poetic book thrown in the middle of Scripture that no one knows how to interpret, but that it really is connected to everything else. And there's just so many treasures in there. So it's been very exciting to do the research and the writing. I've learned a lot, but I'm not done at all with the song. So, I think that I hope it'll get other people in there and talking more about these things.
Okay, well, it's definitely the sort of the topic where that is kind of hot button issue that can you have relationships between males and females, which you've already done with your book.
I've already done that book.
We can be friends, and
why can't we be friends?
Yeah, which is good because not every woman is a Jezebel, and in fact, I'd probably
amazingly,
say the vast majority of women are not, which is who'd have thought?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, but at the same time, being conscious of the capacity for abuse to happen, which I guess is that something your next book talks about? How to
Yeah, so I explore some different things. You know, the first chapter is kind of, do we really need a sexual reformation? Like, am I overstating my case? So I kind of do a little historical survey
Yeah.
of the language and teaching about men and women in the church. And, I really concentrate on the last 70 years maybe, but I do kind of draw back all the way to see like the Aristotelian roots of the teaching. And even in the early church, we have some, really bad teaching on the ontology of woman. So that's the first chapter. And then I kind of introduce the song and then get into this typology that we see in it. But then I get into different topics like the woman's desire and the desirous woman, because, I think this is, the book so much is about desire. And that's the big question when we talk about things like relationships between men and women in the church and everything else. And that infamous Genesis 3:16 verse about the woman's desire being towards the man. Like, what does that mean? But then we have that answer in the song. And so that's amazing. Like, we see that it's actually the groom's desire. He desires her, and her beloved is his. She is his, and he is hers. Is belonging, this freedom and belonging, and that we're to cultivate that desire towards the bridegroom. And then I get into sexuality as gift. I have a chapter called "The Last Woman Standing," which is interesting because that came from a conversation I actually had with Beth Moore. There was a video put out. Doug Wilson's daughter and Canon Press kind of sponsored this YouTube video. And it's called something like "Fighting Feminism by Peeling Potatoes." And it's just like this 2-3 minute video accusing, saying there's encroaching feminism on the church and that Amy Bird and Beth Moore are like the prime, evil people doing this, and that we're trying to call women out of the home and out of their kitchens. And she's peeling potatoes like really badly this whole time, and saying that we're telling women they need to be writing notes in their, going to Bible study and writing notes in their Bibles in the margins, where, what if we're being called to stay home and be writing notes in the margins of our cookbooks? And so the whole video ends with, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen kind of deal. And so Beth and I had an interesting conversation after that. It was just like, you have to laugh. What do you do with something so ridiculous? But it was like circulating online, and I had half a mind to do like a parody video of me, like as Ted
you
Bundy.
so should have done that.
With like a cigarette hanging out of my mouth and peeling potatoes with a knife the real way.
You and Beth Moore should have done the video. That I would have paid good money to
That would have been good.
Good American money
Yes.
to pay just to watch that kind of video, the parody. Because
Right.
I love parody videos.
They're great. And so I thought about it, but I didn't put the effort into it. But so Beth and I were kind of comparing like the horrible things that people have done and said to us online. And this is really nothing really compared to some of the other junk that we've been through. And she said, sometimes by the grace and mercy of Jesus, the last man standing is a woman. And I just thought, that's the bride in the Song of Songs. Collectively speaking, the bride of Christ is the last man standing. So I have a chapter there where I get into abuse and things like that as well, because we have those 2 night scenes in the song. And they are just disturbing. So I get into that there. And then I also talk another chapter about male and female voice and the function of the male and female voice in the song. But really, I feel like the song kind of ignites and evokes our eschatological imagination. Okay. And so I'm really excited about it. And I hope that, I feel like a little nervous because I know that I have a special brand of critics. So it's kind of hard to release this to the dogs.
I call them Amy's special people.
Special people.
Amy's special people. We all have special people in our lives. But there you go. Okay.
I've got some really special ones, but you've got a book coming out soon too.
Yes.
How many, I should ask?
Well, I'm just trying to think. It's kind of like
I'm talking about your 7 things.
Yes, that's right. That should be, I think that's coming out like in June. That's okay. They asked me if I wanted to record the audiobook for that.
Really?
and I told them I have a voice of a slightly obese jockey. And I probably don't, people don't ever think, oh, I love Michael Bird's voice. It's so melodic.
I love your voice.
Well, it's got a kind of it's maybe a little bit of Hugh Jackman, but more of mostly the buffed up jockey, I would say. Whereas, I'd prefer like a James Earl Jones kind of a voice. I would like people to imagine me sounding like James Earl Jones,
Well, I have a question for you then. Like, after, especially people with accents, but most authors that I get to know or hear even on a more regular basis, when you read their books, do you imagine their voice in your head as you're reading it?
If I've met them, yes.
Okay.
I've met them. And I can honestly say one of the things I enjoy about my students is that when they, I teach a class and they've got to read my book, and they say, when I read your book, I hear your voice in my head.
Yes.
And
your voice
so creepy.
Really goes through well in your writing too.
It does. So I do write the way I normally talk, which actually led to a funny incident at ETS. People were saying that my theology is too colloquial, too almost vulgar. It's got too much humor in it.
What?
That's what
I love about you.
Well, and this is what I used a theological joke. I don't know whether everyone will get this, but I said, well, Michael Bird, the author, and Michael Bird, the person, they're not homoousios, they are homoousios. In other words, they are not like, they are the very same.
Yeah, so that's what
homoousios means.
That's good.
Yeah, I know. I impress myself easily and often, and I was impressed with that joke.
You went to bed that night like, I nailed it.
Yeah, actually, someone. It was this was at ETS. They did like a review of my book, and someone tweeted, somebody accused Michael Bird of using too much humor in his book, and he then responded with 10 minutes of stand-up comedy, which is probably
asked for it.
Which is probably what happened. But there we are. But well, that's what I've got happening later this year. But I was going to say, in terms of bad things, we could talk about bad things. What do you have a pet peeve, Aimee? Is there something?
I have a pet peeve? I have plenty of pet peeves, but I can name one if you want.
No, let's not mention Presbyterian elders. Let's be nice.
Okay, no. I won't mention that. Okay, here's a pet peeve. When people use really overly pious language in their emails. It's an email. I don't need a benediction at the end of it or this whole big holy greeting. No one's had to work to deliver it to me. It's basic community. Like, that's a huge pet peeve of mine because I feel like I'm being manipulated.
Okay, so is it like, oh, holy sister Aimee from the church of Greenville,
in the name of the Lord,
from the church of Greenville and the elect saints therein. Grace.
Well, yeah,
peace.
The archaic language comes in if it's coming from the South more, but yeah, you definitely. And it's interesting as a woman author who is not an academic. I will say that, and on your blog, and I usually try to let people just comment. But people insult me all the time. I'm like, show yourself, go ahead, But there is like you have this option to be able to block certain words. Like if they use certain words, they're just blocked. And the one thing I put in there is Ms. Bird. Because usually if I'm being called Ms. Bird, it's not good.
Yeah. I can imagine that would be annoying. Well, I have a pet peeve, Aimee.
Okay. And what's your pet peeve?
It gets me into a lot of trouble with people when I tell them.
Okay.
I don't like students quoting Matthew Henry in their essays.
Now, why is this?
Because
do tell.
Matthew Henry has had this wonderful, very pious, very devout commentary on like the whole Bible. Mm-hmm. And there's some lovely spiritual nuggets. It's wonderful for your devotional life, but it is grossly inappropriate for an exegetical essay on Romans. And some of the things he does with the Old Testament is just weird. Okay, some of it's a little bit too allegorical at times. It's a little bit strange. And there are certain things I ban students from quoting in their essays. Matthew Henry, the Left Behind series,
You share with
and
them? That's not good.
there's a few other things I can't remember. But and I say this period, like I tell students, like every time you cite Matthew Henry in an essay, an angel checks into a rehab clinic, or stuff like that. And then some Presbyterians normally say, "What you
Oh yeah, we
talking?
love the guy.
What you talking trash about Matthew Henry? He's one of the great Puritans. You do not hold a candle up to him. Compared to Matthew Henry, you're like an ant. You're a puny line. You're nothing, bird. You're trash in Matthew Henry." And can I say, I'm not the only lecturer or professor has this allergy. Some friends of mine, like Lynn Kidson, Robin Whitaker, they're like, yes, because
What's the
Matthew,
deal?
because it's online and it's there and it comes up very high in
Free
Google
access.
searches, free
Yeah.
access. So I'd rather people cite some decent commentaries. I don't mind. A bit of Calvin, some of the classic authors, but no Matthew Henry.
He's been overdone.
It's been overdone, and it's just not at the right level.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
again, it's fine for your
More
devotional,
devotional, like you're saying.
or maybe some sermon preparation.
Mm-hmm.
But my pet peeve is seminary students citing Matthew Henry in an essay.
Well, and that leads me to have to read the tweet of the day, which wasn't today. It was like a week or so ago, by Liam Thatcher, saying, "I hope to be in charge of the seating plan for the wedding supper of the Lamb, so I can put Mike Bird and Matthew Henry next to each other and then serve them nothing but coffee."
Yeah.
To which he replied, "You cruel son of a motherless barista."
Yeah,
That was good.
There's
That
a
was
lot.
very entertaining.
There's a lot of things going on there. Like I said, putting me next to Matthew Henry, we would have a lot to talk about.
I think that would be very entertaining, actually.
And people, my dislike or hatred of coffee is fairly well known. As you would know when you had to put the password in to log into a particular.
I'm concerned about your hatred for coffee. I will have to say, as a former coffee shop owner, it's troubling to me.
Yeah.
But my husband as well cannot drink coffee, which I've tried. I have tried.
Yeah. Well, and I can say for me, hell would be eternity working as a barista. That would be.
Loved being a barista. I mean, it's like being a bartender. People tell you their life stories. You know what they're getting when they're walking in the door.
Actually, yesterday at my college, I was being teased and tormented by my colleagues because I've got like my own building where I have the top floor and the bottom floor is just like storage. And they were threatening to turn the bottom floor into a cafe, like a kind of like
you'd smell it all day long.
It would seep up through the floorboards up into my office. And they were saying, yeah, we think we should turn that into
that would be brilliant.
Like a mobile, like a static coffee cart that people could just come by the lane and like, oh, you cruel people, you would do that to me. Okay. Well, anyway, there's our pet peeves.
Yeah.
On a more serious note.
Save more for another day.
Yeah. On a more serious note, we've seen in this last week or so a report released from Ravi Zacharias International Ministries based on an independent investigation. And it's been quite horrific and harrowing because it's revealed that Ravi Zacharias, a very famous and celebrated apologist, was in fact something of was indeed a sexual predator. With all the photos on his phone, he was particularly into exploiting young masseuses of ethnic origins. It's really like I remember when there was like a whole bunch of rumors or allegations flying around, and this woman in Canada had to sign an NDA and that sort of stuff. And I remember thinking,
isn't that a red flag already?
Yeah,
I mean, the NDA.
an NDA is a sign like, okay, something bad has happened here,
Yeah.
and this is not good. And it just seems to be a whole career. And this is my take.
Hmm.
This guy was obviously very good at concealing what he did. He also was very good at manipulating people around him. But in terms of an organizational failure, to monitor this and to put a stop, and the way people who raised red flags, how they
Yeah.
were treated,
Yeah.
it was not just irresponsible, it was like an aiding and abetting in some
Yeah.
way. And yeah, I mean, it's just,
We have to look at the system. And I mean, it was horrible what happened. And my whole mantra that I keep saying, and it's not just Ravi Zacharias. I mean, we've been through, how many more do we need? We've got Mark Driscoll, James McDonald, Julian Shavigian, Bill Hybels, Carl Lentz. Like, we just have all these different leaders with abuse of power and who have been given a lot of power. And my big mantra is that abusers abuse because they can. They are being enabled. They cannot do this if people are stopping them.
yeah.
And not giving them a platform and actually pursuing justice. And the sad part is that who is the one who has to do all the work? The victims. The victim in Ravi's case, in Ravi Zacharias' case, even, I mean, the victims have come forward. And of course, with the Thompson woman, she was totally darvoed and made to look like she was just exploiting him for his money. But we've got an atheist, really, who broke this case. And so what the irony here of, like, who was kind of applauded as the greatest apologist internationally of our time, it has been, he's been revealed to be a complete sexual predator of the worst kind, and by an atheist. So what does any of this do for the witness for Christ?
Well, it's terrible.
I mean,
it's
how
terrible.
ironic.
Yeah. And it goes to show that organizations do accountability very
Shame on us.
badly. And
Yeah.
and it's I mean, I get the impression that someone's built up this incredible platform, and people are just with rivers of gold flowing in from donors and contributors,
Yeah.
and people are terrified of it all disappearing. And it's
Well,
like,
and you've got your board stacked with family members and friends.
Yep.
We don't even know who all's on the board.
Yeah, I know. And that's what I find incredible. You don't know. You can say, well, the board needs to be held to account, but no one knows who is on the
I wonder if I
board.
should put another light on.
Oh,
Doesn't do much more. It's
well,
getting dark in here.
You look angelic either way, Aimee. Angelic.
I've got the Shekinah glory coming down on me now.
Exactly. But
yeah, I mean, I feel like, have you seen the reactions too? I mean, we've got major Christian leaders, the former president of the Council of Biblical Manhood and Womanhood goes on Twitter saying how a Christian response to this shouldn't be, oh, like, look at this man and what he's done, but for the grace of God, go I. I mean, the complete empathy there and lack of, and this man is somebody who, doesn't think twice about going after feminists. However, you've got a sexual predator using the name of God. We don't even know what he's done in Asia.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We don't know so much. We don't know so much. But to have this sympathy for him, like, that could have been me. Really? Really?
Yeah. I do have to wonder, like, the same energy or the same ravenous hunger to hunt down these so-called feminists. I just wish they would take that same energy, that same anger, and deploy it against these people. Because I'll be honest with you, when I think of who is really ruining the witness to Christ, if I had to choose between, is it A, Beth Moore, or B, Ravi Zacharias, I'm pretty sure this is a no-brainer. So if you want to put your energies into something, like if you're very conservative, and if you're, if you're really concerned with the integrity of Christian witness and compromise and worldliness infiltrating the church, I
Yeah.
think it's taking a real hard stand. And if you really want to, use your detective skills or your dare I say your masculine hunting skills, if you want to put them to good use, use them for something like these people.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and I mean, I think that all of these cases just it's just showing a terribly infected system. And I think that there's so much that we are like, I know Wade Mullen in his book, Something's Not Right. He says that a safe community gives like others the freedom to say something's not right here.
mm-hmm.
And it makes me wonder, is the whole evangelical church and even our local churches, are they a safe community? Are they even a safe community? And I think it really starts with valuing the voice of women, because you have this theology of not valuing the voice of women, and then when you have women speaking out as victims, like you're trying to tell truth and not trying to do it in a I want to usurp male authority kind of way, they're suspect right away. And we saw that happen in Ravi Zacharias' case. Before he died, several years of this has been going on, of things coming to the surface. And not only that, but even his like credentials for his doctorate and stuff were all exaggerated and things like that. There were so many red flags. But it's just, I just feel like you just see this collateral damage of all of these women who have paid this cost to just speak truth.
Yeah. And
it's really sad. It makes me want to ask questions about just how we handle everything. Like when you're putting boards together, when you're putting church government together and church discipline together, how are victims impacted by the decisions and the process that you put into place? And how is justice even perceived? I love what Diane Langberg says. She says, our responses to the vulnerable expose who we are.
Yeah. That's
and
so
I mean,
true.
You look at Christ in scripture and you see that over and over, and you see his anger towards this kind of stuff, but you also see like this empathy and compassion, the way he really listened. And I just wonder where Christ is in all of this. Here is the biggest Christian apologist of our time. Where is Christ?
Yeah, well, hopefully standing in as judge over
I know
Ravi now, and he and his ministry. Yeah, it's a hard question. I mean, you wonder. I can't help but think that it's not going to change unless there is something like a sexual revolution in evangelical culture. We need, I think, our own version of the 1960s without going into the 1960s motto of free love, which I think always kind of favored the male. Remember the 1968 French student riots started over males wanting access to female dormitories. That's kind of So I mean, so if you ever wonder where some of this sort of came from, you got to keep that in mind. I think we're actually I think we are coming full circle now, that we've learned that pursuing your unbridled lusts with unfettered restraint was never going to be good for women, and for that, not good for men either. So I think we are coming not back to like a neo-Puritan thing, but the idea that boys will be boys, or some men are a little bit handsy, or Bill Clinton, he likes the ladies.
Talk.
He likes the ladies, or that's locker room talk. I think a lot of us are now kind of getting to the point. No, we need another sexual revolution, because we've seen where the 1960s
Reformation. I mean, do we believe what we say about how the church is reformed and still needs reforming always?
Yeah, well, actually,
do we believe that?
But I thought the Reformation ended with the Westminster Confession, peace be upon it. I thought that was the end of the Reformation.
No, we still need to reform, and so that's why I feel like too is just the minor stuff that I've gone through abuse-wise in the church, compared to that, I would call it definitely minor. But what I've really seen at the root of so much of this is this theological teaching, about the ontology of man and woman, and that man in his very being is an authoritative creature, and that woman in her being, like, we might not say she's defected man anymore, like Aristotle did, but we just kind of put some velvet on it by talking about roles. And, it's still, she's created second. So that means that she's subordinate. And what if being created second isn't saying that at all? What if being created second is saying that she's actually an eschatological marker, that she's actually pointing to man's telos, that she isn't made from the soil of the ground for a reason, because she's made from man's side. And that very picture we see, like the church flowing out of Christ's side, like when he lays eyes on woman for the first time, he sees what he's to become, the bride of Christ, part of the collective bride of Christ. Like, doesn't that elevate and totally change the way that we think about women?
I love the phrase velvet Aristotelianism. I'm going to use it. Probably the name for my next book. Forget the velvet Elvis. I want the velvet.
That's
velvet Aristotelianism. That's going to work. I like that. Yeah, it's kind of like we've taken the Aristotelian ontology.
You can have the title.
We've added some velvet to it and just kind of repackage it in a new way. That is so true. That's true.
It is true. And so I really think we need to we need to reform in the sense that we need to look back at what the scripture is really saying about the meaning behind our sexuality.
And do it with a self-conscious sense of our own context, and whether we're believing stuff on the basis of scripture, or are we simply taking some of the worst aspects of culture, whether that's Aristotelian philosophy, the sort of what's that? What's that book about manhood everyone talks about? Free Spirit or something? The Born Free.
Oh yeah, Eldridge, John Eldridge.
Yeah.
Something about being wild and
wild at heart. Yeah. Are we just taking these sort of cultural tropes, these kind of cheesy mottos, and making them as a series of lenses for viewing scripture? So rather than engaging with what it means to be male and female together in Christ before God, we're relying on the alternatives of Cheetos, rather than the food of the word to kind of nourish us and how we sustain relationships. Yeah, I think that's good. Well, I hope your Sexual Reformation takes us a little bit closer towards those goals, Aimee.
Probably not, but I'm trying.
Well, we appreciate the effort, Aimee. It's like you're like I was going to say, you're like Gandalf on that white horse charging at all the orcs. And
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm sure there are days it feels like that. Well,
with this Zacharias stuff, I just feel like, it does anger you that now everybody's talking about how horrible it is, because it's safe to. Nobody's risking anything by saying it now.
That is so true. But why don't we finish up with something a little bit more lighthearted? We've done pet peeves. I now need to read what could be for you, Presbyterian Aimee, a triggering topic. And I hope this doesn't trigger you. I have to know, what do Presbyterians think about Lent? Actually, to be honest, I think I know what Presbyterians think about Lent. And it is something along the lines of just a bunch of popery. The whole, Ash Wednesday, sign of the cross, kind of giving up something for Lent, a type of fasting. What's the Presbyterian? Should Presbyterians observe Lent?
Okay, so I cannot speak for all Presbyterians, and so I will certainly not want to take on that burden. But I would say, like myself, being a Presbyterian, and I grew up a Baptist, since it's not part of my inherited church tradition and historical tradition, for me, I appreciate seeing how Anglicans observe Lent, and I understand, somewhat what's going on. However, it feels pretend, maybe, if I were to participate in it, it feels like an act for show, kind of this ostentatious piety, because,
Like your emails.
I guess like the emails, because, the Presbyterian understanding is more that, our practices and observances for the Lord's Day every week, and the sacraments that we have convey those very same things on a regular basis. So, that we see the priority of God's grace in the baptism and in the Lord's Supper and in the preached word. And we have that whole liturgy of confession. And so I feel like I've received those same symbols and signs in our already liturgy that we have. However, it is a conviction for me too, to observe the Lord's Day better, like more fully, not just, attending corporate worship. That's kind of a liturgical calendar of itself. But I do have an appreciation for the observance of Lent in other in the Anglican tradition or Roman Catholic tradition. I have an appreciation for it. I don't think like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's dumb. Okay. And I don't think it's pretend, for Anglicans. But I do feel like there are more Baptists, more Presbyterians who are starting to participate a little bit. And then you see online like people talking about what they're giving up for Lent, and you're like, you're just doing that because you feel like you need to go on a diet, or you're just doing that to sound like, your life will be improved by cutting such and such out for the next 40 days, Well,
I always give up coffee for Lent.
Well, you're one of them then.
Yeah, I mean, people have said it's a little bit performative, but I mean, you're missing out you're missing out on Fat Wednesday. Do you know what Fat Wednesday is?
I participate in Fat Tuesday.
Oh, sorry, Fat Tuesday. Yeah, the pancakes. The pancakes.
We get Kinklings.
Yeah, you can go to.
I totally participate in that every year.
You can go to IHOP, all you can eat, no shame. Okay.
No shame.
IHOP, no shame.
Yeah, in our house, we're like, it's Fat Tuesday. Like, you're supposed to eat fattening things on Tuesday. We have no theology behind it or anything like that, but it's like kind of celebrating the other holidays.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well.
So we get Kinklings here. They're like they're donuts made out of like potato dough, and they're fried, and they got powdered sugar all over them.
Kinklings?
I think it's a German.
I'll be honest with you, that sounds like an adult's product shop.
Well, hey,
want to spice up your marriage?
Wait in line for over an hour for good Kinklings on Fat Tuesday.
Really?
Hot, yeah, good Kinklings.
So it's made from potato.
Potato dough, yeah.
Potato dough. Is this even a thing?
I mean, I've never actually made Kinklings myself because they're so available. They're great places.
Is Kinklings like an American word for gnocchi or something like that?
No, but I don't know why. I don't know the etymology of it. I do know that they're very similar to fastnachts. Are you aware of fastnacht?
Fastnacht sounds like swearing in Swedish. Yeah, you are fastnacht. You are fastnacht. I am telling Marta, you are fastnacht.
Well, all I'm saying is I don't know the etymology. I should have researched it. It's just you go along with it because that's what you've done your whole life, and you eat Kinklings on Fat Tuesday.
I mean, I can get my head around grits. Okay, don't understand. Well, but I don't like it, but I can understand. But now you are speaking a different language to me. I feel like you live.
You're missing out.
You live in a different food galaxy.
They're better than pancakes.
Okay, I mean, do they make the Kinklings sweet? Is it like sweet, or is it like if it's
and there's like powdered sugar all on the outside of it.
But it's made of potato.
You look like a total 3-year-old when you're done eating because it's everywhere.
Okay,
it's fabulous.
I've had beignets in New Orleans. That was pretty good.
Okay.
Famous beignets. But these Kinkling things, you've lost me. And then what's the Norwegian?
Put it on your bucket list.
What's the Norwegian swearing word again?
Fastnacht. So growing up, there was this diner that my parents every now and then would take us to breakfast to. Why can't I think of the name? It had a huge Barbara Fritchie, and it had a huge candy cane statue thing outside. there was a candy store inside. It was like fascinating for a kid. But if you got there in time, you could get a hot fast nut. And I always got there either chocolate milk or hot chocolate. It was a total sugar explosion breakfast of deliciousness.
Okay, I'll have to. Is this like a southeast thing, like Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland
Yeah, that's
area?
not really southeast. It's not northeast either. We're just kind of in between.
Okay, well, mid-Atlantic-y? Is that
Yeah, mid-Atlantic east.
okay? Or as I just call it,
Mid-Atlantic.
those parts of America which I say, and here there be dragons. Okay,
It's the cool parts.
Okay, I'll have to make a culinary excursion to these Kinklings
Sure.
and false knots.
That's right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you'll have to come to Australia one day, and we'll do lamingtons.
Would love it.
And maybe
whatever that is.
Look it up. They're not bad. They're not bad. Okay. They're not bad. Look up lamingtons, and
I will.
maybe we could fairy bread, which you may already know. That's an Australian invention too.
Oh, is that with the sprinkles on it?
Yeah.
I had that in Canada. When I was speaking in Canada, they made that.
Yeah. I think they stole it from the Australians.
Interesting.
Just like Canadian bacon originally came from Australia. That's not true.
Very.
But there we go.
Okay, now I'm sitting there falling for your stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm very persuasive. There we go. Well, Aimee, I think we should probably end our time there. That's been good. That's been a good episode. So
I think so.
And to everyone who's watching and listening, thank you very much for joining us. We hope you've learned something about why friends don't let friends cite Matthew Henry. Don't be a sexual predator. And I think also as well, Kinklings. We'll have to try that. Maybe I'll have to order some and I'll have to live eat them. And you can provide live commentary. But
awesome.
And to anyone, but feel free to leave a comment or a question or any suggestions for things you'd like Aimee and I to talk about in the future. So I won't leave you with a very pious greeting, other than say maybe see our friends and viewers next time.